Today's video, I'm having such a time with this thing. The sound, audio, visual, video, it's all very difficult, and YouTube isn't making it any easier. Alright, so there's my complaint. Today's video has to do with predator control, and I wanted to talk to you about predator control in particular on herons, because there's some information out there that's sort of interesting. The heron is a very large bird that ranges across most of the United States. I don't know whether it's a big deal out in the western United States like California or not. Probably is, though. It's a migratory bird. It lives in high populations, especially in Florida, and it can eat a lot of fish. And the problem with that is on the small fish, on the small birds, is that the small birds, when they're done eating, they'll just stab other fish just for experience. So it's kind of a terrible predator, and it's you'll hear about it when you go to koi club meetings and stuff. There'll always be somebody who'll talk about how they lost all their fish to a heron. There's several forms of heron control. There's scares. I don't know if you've ever heard or seen of those. That's a motion-activated device. It looks like a crow, and it stands next to the pond, and if it detects any motion, like a lighting bird or whatever, it starts squirting water everywhere. Now, what's interesting is the heron doesn't care about water. The heron cares about is the sudden activation of something, and it startles him and he flies away. So, and you can worry about water pressure and all that stuff and spend the money, or you can use a motion detector. I had this one guy, he took a motion detector spotlight, you know, like you get at Home Depot, and he straight wired that and put it in a bucket, and he attached the motion detector to the bucket, and in the bucket he put a jigsaw with no blade in it. And what happens is the bird lands anywhere near the bucket. The spotlights come on the bottom of the bucket, and the jigsaw starts jumping all around inside the bucket, making a giant racket and scaring the herons away. It works great. Of course, the bucket also waterproofs the whole kit and caboodle. It's a pretty good setup. Didn't cost him a lot. Already had the jigsaw. You can shoot herons, however, that's illegal. And you can use Pyrotechnics, which is neat. There's a little machine that shoots a firework off about every 5 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever you want to set it on. And then there is a heron scares, the snake eyes and all that other junk that you hang in trees and stuff. The heron will watch those for about 10 minutes from a distance and determine that they're harmless and fly right down and eat your food, eat your fish. I haven't seen those work so much. The other one, and this is kind of interesting, is they're called heron decoys, and it's a plastic heron that you put next to your pond. And it's funny about that is herons are territorial, which means they don't typically like to be near each other, but when they see another heron standing next to the pond, they figure, nah, I don't want to eat there, but it looks safe because there he is. And so they fly and they land on the other side of the pond and start cleaning you out. They're actually, then, in a way, they're attracted to heron decoys. And that's not just me. That's U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service actually worked that one out. So I was talking to Tim Kelly, and I thought, wouldn't that be funny if you took a heron decoy and you twisted its neck, painted it like with blood spatters and all that stuff, put a handful of feathers out there, and then see if that would deter a chronic heron problem. I don't know. So anyway, so heron decoys, scary eyes, inflatable snakes and all that, not so much. Scarecrows, very good, work great, but it's not the water, it's the sudden noise and all that stuff. As a side note, gator heads, those work kind of neat. It's a little floating alligator head, because in Florida, alligators eat a lot of herons, and so that gator heads actually work pretty decent. And then, like I said, homemade devices that start, you know, lights and radios and jigsaws and all that stuff. Those are pretty effective as well. And of course, I mean, I should have said netting. Netting has a lot to do with control of the heron as well. They will wade in over flight lines, so not so much on that. So the long and the short of it basically is, if you're getting into this hobby and you're a beginner looking for some heron